Hello, classic rock fans. I am reporting live after seeing Warrant and Lita Ford at Waterfest in Oshkosh, one of my favorite annual concert series that happens every Thursday of the summer up here in Oshkosh. This year I only came once, and it was tonight for a little hair metal. And I have never seen Lita Ford or Warrant before, or their opener, Firehouse, but I didn't actually get a chance to see them. Unfortunately, Oshkosh is an hour and a half drive from my place, so I did not get up here in time to see Firehouse. But to be quite honest, I'm not terribly disappointed with that because although I do love hair metal, I have my limits. Well, anyway, so I get up here, and unfortunately that long drive meant I was a little late even to see Lita Ford. And to make matters worse, when I arrived, I was reminded of Waterfest's most frustrating aspect, that it is a cash-only festival. You know, I've complained about Summerfest in Milwaukee being cashless. I think that's anti-fan and kind of a shitty thing to do, but good Lord, it is so much more irritating when it is the reverse and you don't have the right amount of cash on you. So here's the thing, you know, this is a smaller town and it's a bit of a budget festival, so I can understand that they got to scrimp and save wherever they can. And, you know, cash only means they don't have to, you know, pay those credit card fees or whatever. That's fine. I'm honestly okay with all of that, and I like to support smaller ventures like this. But here's the thing. They have ATMs on the inside of the festival grounds, but nothing at the gates for people who show up maybe not realizing that it is cash only. So then you're out of luck and you have to go for a walk and find a bank or a hotel. And I'm sorry, that's obnoxious. It's not the first time it's happened to me. I should know better by this point. All right, I'll stop complaining. I'm just a little frustrated because I missed part of Lita Ford's set, and the second half of the show that I did see was really good, so I suspect the first half of the show was a lot of fun too. Now, that said, I'm not a Lita Ford expert. I know she was in the Runaways with Joan Jett back in like the 70s, and you know, there was a lot of drama in that band, and it didn't last, obviously. And of course, I know Kiss Me Deadly. So that was the stuff I really came to see, and luckily that was the stuff that was in the second half of the set, so I was able to see her play Cherry Bomb and, of course, Kiss Me Deadly. Also, another cool aspect of her set was that she covered Alice Cooper's Only Women Bleed. I thought that was a great pick for a cover, and she played it very well. She had this awesome double-necked guitar. That's fucking metal as hell. I did get a kick out of how many times she said, "Yeah, baby," through the night.
Mr. Martin Anderson, woo! Yeah, baby!
Very much a Austin Powers vibe going on for a little bit, but I'm just making fun. Lita Ford's a legend in metal, and I wish I had a chance to see her sooner. But I'm glad I got a chance to see her tonight because it was a lot of fun. You know, come to think of it, I probably would have swapped Warrant and Lita Ford and have Warrant be the opener and Lita Ford be the headliner, if I'm honest. I think that might have made for a better show, but that's just me. In any case, before we get to Warrant, I am going to play a quick clip from the very first interview I ever did on my podcast, in which author Kristen Casey, who wrote a book about dating Joe Walsh in the late 80s and early 90s, she had a pretty funny interaction with Lita Ford, and I'm going to play that here.
Lita Ford, it was much more subtle. It was a much more minor kind of a thing, but she did give me she walked into Joe's dressing room once and was super excited to see him, just let herself right in and is kind of being gushy, and then sees me and comes to a screeching halt and basically gives me a dirty look, and then just cuts short. I try to introduce myself, and she just kind of cuts me off and I think tells Joe, "I'll see you later," or something, and just turns around and storms out. And I just thought, I said to Joe, what just happened there? And if he hadn't acted like he didn't know what I was talking about, I might have questioned what I was thinking, which was that it clearly seems like they have a closeness that precludes, she didn't expect him to have a girlfriend. So I don't know if anything happened between them. I don't know if she just had a crush on him, but either she had a thing for him and was not expecting to meet his girlfriend, or they had a little fling. and she was pissed off that he had brought me to that show. I don't know.
Yeah, just kind of a silly story there. Thought you might like it. If you want to see the full interview that clip is from, please check the description below. All right, on to Warrant, the headlining band. Now, I've recently started doing these 1-minute video reviews of albums for my TikTok page and my reels on Facebook and Instagram. Oh, I know. I can hear your eyes rolling at that. I get it. But it's been fun because it's given me a reason to listen to an album a day that I haven't heard before. And I've been getting into a lot of new to me music. Now, the album I listened to today for that was 1992's Dog Eat Dog by Warrant. And I was pleasantly surprised. I got the impression that they were a band that didn't get their proper due because of the glut of hair metal bands in the late 80s and early 90s. So I was really looking forward to tonight's show. And unfortunately, I don't know. Maybe it's the new lead singer. Maybe it's because they didn't really play any music from that Dog Eat Dog album. They played one song, but it was not one I liked. But I don't know. Tonight's show just didn't match my expectations from listening to that record today. And also knowing, their big hits, Heaven, Cherry Pie, Uncle Tom's Cabin, stuff like that. By the way, they saved the 3 big hits for the very end of the show, which I gotta say, when you save all of the radio hits for the very end of the night, I honestly think that's kind of a dick move. There was a lot of people throughout the night kind of leaving during Warren's set. I don't think in protest, I think just to go home because it was getting kind of late. But as far as these album tracks that they played for the first 3/4 of the set, some of it was okay. There was a track called Down Boys I liked, but a lot of it was very mediocre, or at least it wasn't my cup of tea. I mean, I love metal, but I also am not a metal head, if that makes any sense. I'm not that much into it. So maybe this wasn't the right show for me. Maybe I should have went to a show where Warrant was the opening act, because honestly, if Warrant's set was cut in half and they were opening for perhaps a more mainstream rock band, I would be describing their show very differently and much more positively. I think it was just a little too much of songs that I'm not terribly familiar with and wasn't really all that impressed by. That said, I was absolutely in the extreme minority on that opinion tonight because Waterfest was totally packed, which was awesome. I've been up here a number of times over the last 10 years, and I have never seen it as crowded as it was tonight. So take my complaints with a grain of salt. Warrant and Lita Ford drew a huge crowd, and that's great. I love to see that for Waterfest up here. And the crowd was enthusiastic. So I think people in the audience were more familiar with Warrant's discography than I was. I did overhear some people sitting around me just talking about how much they like Warrant. So yeah, I don't feel great about kind of not being totally positive about them right now, but I can only tell you how I feel about it. In any case, the lead singer, had good rock star energy. He said a lot of the right things. He was getting the crowd pumped up. Again, I don't know much about Warrant's history. I've seen the music videos with Janie Lane, and I was, I don't know, maybe my problem is I'm comparing, the current guy to the old Janie Lane videos. And say what you will, but Janie Lane was a very talented front band. And I don't know, maybe I'm not being fair to the current lineup. But in any case, if you are a fan of old school Warrant, you might be interested in another episode of my podcast, one I did more recently. Earlier this year, I interviewed Bobby Brown, who is, of course, most famous for her role in the Cherry Pie music video. So if you want to check that out, I've also posted the link to that in the description below. Speaking of Cherry Pie, that, of course, was the very last song of the night, and they played that with a lot of enthusiasm. Crowd got on their feet for that, and that was fun. That song gets a bad rap, when it comes to 80s metal. That one is often, pointed out as like perhaps one of the silliest songs of that genre, but I always think stuff like that is unfair. I like that song. I think there's a charm to it, and yeah, it's a little sleazy, but hey, hair metal's a little sleazy, and that's part of the appeal. So or whatever that's worth. In any case, that's all I got for now. This is going to be my only visit to Waterfest this year. It was, I guess, not the best experience I've ever had here, but that's not to say it was a bad time at all. And like I said, I'm very happy to see that they drew a nice big crowd for tonight's show. Okay, if you've enjoyed this concert review, please check out the other concert reviews I've done on this channel. If you're a fan of classic rock, I guarantee you I've talked about some other artists that you're a fan of. And if you are a fan of classic rock, please check out the podcast I do. It's called Play That Rock and Roll. We've had a lot of great guests on this year, like I mentioned, Bobby Brown. And we've got a lot more fun stuff coming down the road, so be sure to check that out. Okay, you can also find our social media links in the description below. And with that, see Lita Ford and Warrant, if you're a fan of hair metal, if they come to your town, and keep rocking.
I read her memoir, and that woman has been through hell.
Yeah.
And I do respect her tremendously as an artist. And I know people in Austin who know her, and they speak very highly of her.